Artists, too, believed that nature could underwrite their work even as it pushed towards abstraction. If European pioneers of abstract art like Kandinsky believed that, why not Americans? In the 19th century, American artists had equated nature with spirit, with creation itself. They saw it as the ground of American uniqueness. An impulse like that doesn't just suddenly evaporate, and so, in the early 20th century, the avant-garde was rich in images of land, sea, sky, plants, earth and moon, as nature and abstraction converged. One especially lyrical talent in the early American avant-garde, part of Stieglitz's circle, was Arthur Dove, who for some years lived on a boat in Long Island. His early abstractions still reflect the world. In this one, from about 1912, Sails, you can see the triangular mainsails against the cloud and landscape shapes behind. Like some European avant-gardists, Dove wondered if shape and colour could also convey an impression of sound, if there could be a match between painting and music. And in this grey seascape called foghorns, the soft blooms of shape do suggest the echo of those horns in the mist. For some American modernists, Long Island wasn't far enough away. Some American modernists went west, looking for primitive America, in search of nature stripped bare. They found it 2,000 miles away in New Mexico, around Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and especially Taos. Taos had been an art colony for years before any modernists got there. Since 1900, minor academic artists like Ernest Blumenschein had gone there to paint the Pueblo Indians, the adobe churches, and the landscape. By 1915, organized tourism had turned the place into a sort of internal American Tahiti with its own art marketing organization. But the artist who came to dominate our idea of New Mexico imagery was a woman, Georgia O'Keeffe. Some of her earliest abstractions from the 19-teens are very beautiful. Their response to landscape is luminous, almost pantheistic. Once in New Mexico, she reacted intensely to the images of its culture, like the crosses erected by the penitentes, stark against the big sky. Her close-ups of flowers were very popular, both for their lushness and for their sexual overtones, whose presence O'Keeffe indignantly denied. Her paintings of skulls and pelvises in the landscape mostly verge on kitsch surrealism. Georgia O'Keeffe died in 1986, just 2 years short of her 100th birthday, and this was her house and studio in Abiquiu, New Mexico. Was she one of the greatest American artists? Well, there's certainly many people who think so. I'm not so sure, but this is confused by the fact that for the last 50 years of her life, she was unquestionably the most famous woman artist that America has ever produced. She was a diva of independence, an icon of feminism, and God help anybody who had the temerity to suggest that there might have been, let's say, some unevenness in her work.
I can imagine myself being a much better painter and nobody paying any attention to me at all. But it happens that the thing that I have done, the things that I've been doing have been in touch with my time so that people have liked it.
Georgia had to be moved emotionally by something in nature in order to paint it. But she let that first feeling rest inside of her for a year. And then we'd go back to the same place. And she might just sit and look at it a while, and then we'd go back 6 months later and she'd go to work on it. She could not stay in New York. 6 months there was all she could take. And then she would come out here and go to work, and work 11 hours a day was not unusual. Then there was the hiatus of taking a walk, which was sort of a rebuilding of this thing of the spirit. She wanted to work. That was the whole point of Georgia. She wanted to work.
O'Keeffe had shown her work at Stieglitz's gallery since 1916. They became lovers and later married, and Stieglitz photographed her incessantly, both clothed and nude. Their relationship was a scandal at first, then it became a legend, and finally a middlebrow soap opera like The Loves of Bloomsbury. "We have talked over everything," Stieglitz wrote. "Into 1 week we have compressed years. I don't think there is anything to equal it." Stieglitz disliked going west of the Hudson, but O'Keeffe moved to New Mexico in 1929.